my name is Maia Mazurkiewicz and welcome to the Anatomy of Disinformation. Our first guest is Peter Grk, Secretary General of the Bled Strategic Forum. Peter, welcome and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Maia. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. Well, it's 2025 and we have drones all over Europe. We have incidents of the Russian escalating incidents like in Denmark, Poland, Estonia, Germany, and many others.
I just moderated one session on the unfinished story of enlargement of the European Union. And this session actually happened on the backdrop of the Moldovan elections, which, as you know, were heavily attacked by Russian propaganda, disinformation, cyber attacks, and so on and so on. And in spite of all this, in spite of Russia really targeting Moldova, the elections and everything, the Moldovan people choose democracy. They choose the European path. So it shows you that democracy is much more resilient than we give it credit for. So if you are asking me how to fight all these things, I would say the most important thing is maintaining strong democracy, strong institutions.
So it's possible to win. We didn't lose it yet.
It's possible to win, and I think Moldova showed the way.
So what they did right, what do we need?
Well, first of all, I think what you need, and this is something which was lacking in the past, is the passion for the European project, for Europe as a geostrategic power, Europe which is strong and has a role in this new global reality that we are facing. I think in the past everything was too much technical, you know, also enlargement, also discussions about how we need to adapt to the new economic, political, security reality. Right now, I think there is a growing sense that passion for Europe is back. Passion for democracy is back. Passion for, you know, having strong rule of law, human rights institutions is back. And this is something which can be translated at the end of the day into the political will to make European Union and Europe as a whole stronger.
And you see that passion back in Moldova, but do you see it as well in the old Europe?
That's a good question, because this is something that we discussed also at the panel. Where is this passion in the old Europe? Is it here, or are we back to our old ways where everything was a technical process? I would say that, you know, Russian aggression on Ukraine was a game changer. And you could see, and this is something that also Ukrainian representative at the panel said, you know, before the Russian aggression, nobody thought that Ukraine is going to be part of this new Europe, that it's going to become part of European Union. And this is the reality now. So I would say that also in the Western Europe, everybody slowly understands that without the consolidation of European continent, we are all going to lose. And we are going to be, you know, a playing ground for other forces to actually influence our way of life.
But isn't it too slowly? Just Prime Minister of Poland has said that, it's also our war, and of course it is, but this war is lasting for 3+ years from the whole-scale invasion and in general for many, many years.
Look, we are a sui generis structure of 27 countries. So our decision-making process is slow. That's a fact, which I think we are not going to be able to change anytime soon. It's cumbersome, it takes time, but I always said, you know...
Well, but maybe can we change it?
Maybe we can, but it's not going to be an easy process, and of course it's not going to be a quick fix solution. It's impossible, because you need...
But didn't we lose because Russia is doing actions super fast?
I know, but what we need to do is insert some positive feelings into the whole European story, because Europe or European Union in the past was dead and buried for many, many times. You know, if you look at economic crisis, if you look at migration crisis, if you look at energy crisis, if you look at Russian aggression in Ukraine, because everybody said Europe is going to go its separate ways, the countries of European Union, And we are still here. We are still fighting. We are still basically mattering. And I think this is important to understand, that the foundation of European Union is quite solid. Now, it's true, we have to build on it. We should do it quicker, of course, because the world is changing much faster than it was changing in the past. But is everything bad? No, I don't think so. I think that European Union will, in the next decade, become an important member of the international community and a global
Isn't
player.
it too little too late? We should be already, no?
No, of course, it's always too late, I mean, all these changes should be done much quicker, of course. But something is wishes, other is political reality. And I think, no, it's not too late. But what you need, of course, at the end of the day is political will. Without the political will, it's not going to happen. So how do you build up? That's the real question. How do you build up the political will?
And the political will is there, right?
The political will, no, it's not there, because if it would be there, then all these changes will already happen. If you look at the Draghi report, probably we implemented in 1 year or 2 years from the report 10% of what was said inside of there. So the political will is growing, but still it's not there, so that the changes would come quicker. How do we build it up?
Because political will is also being built on attitudes of people. And the attitudes of people are being attacked by Russia.
It's true. This is why our messaging to the population needs to be clear. I think in the past, we didn't communicate why Europe is important, why Europe is...
So why is it?
Why Europe is important?
Yeah.
I think it should be, and this is an old saying, it should be a beacon, but also a lighthouse of the fundamental freedoms. And we should use Europe or European Union as a structure who is promoting to the outer world the basic foundations on which the European Union is being built: rule of law, human rights, solidarity, democracy, transparency. I think these are the foundations of the new world. If we are not going to be successful in basically transforming or promoting this, it's going to be a problem.
Is Putin afraid of Europe, or he doesn't care?
I think he's afraid because if you look at the Russian aggression on Ukraine, I think his basic calculation is we are just going to be destroyed. Europe is going to watch what is happening. It's not going to intervene. It's not going to be united. And we proved him wrong. So at the end of the day, this is a conflict which is lasting for a long, long time. And more, I think he can see that this unity of European Union is somehow also transforming the transatlantic partnership, or the new American administration, who was very, reluctant at the beginning, but now slowly we are coming together.
Peter, thank you so much. And definitely it's time for action, but it's good to have forums like this to discuss as well. Peter Grk.
Thank you very much.
Now, let's scrutinize the disinformation efforts as they unfolded amid the recent general elections in Czech Republic.
The Czech Republic's general elections, which concluded on October 4th, had their fair share of disinformation.
The intelligence services actually uncovered a sophisticated network of operations in Czechia run from Russia on TikTok, not dissimilar to things that we've seen, for example, in Romania.
The goal of these efforts was to influence the ballot so that
pro-Russian, openly pro-Russian candidates, such as the Communist Party, have a higher chance of winning.
According to the Center for Online Risk Research, a Czech think tank, a total of 350 TikTok profiles had been caught red-handed, regularly publishing or sharing pro-Russian content since August. The mapped accounts had been promoting selected candidates from the left-wing populist and Eurosceptic bloc Statulo, or Enough, including its constituent Communist Party of Bohemian Moravia and Japanese-born Tomio Okamura's anti-immigration Freedom and Direct Democracy. Their cumulative reach in mid-September amounted to 5 to 9 million views per week, more than the official social media profiles of the leaders of the strongest political parties combined. And there's more. postal voting was targeted by disinformation actors on TikTok and Facebook.
Most of those narratives said that there would be a large number of people using these options, and not all of them would have the citizenship. Almost half of people believe this to be at least a little bit credible.
But given that TikTok stepped up and removed a large but undisclosed number of disinformation spreading accounts, it's difficult to assess whether a premeditated, all-out campaign was in the making.
When platforms take action proactively, we might simply get these noun results. Nothing happened. But if there wasn't this kind of preparatory activity, we might have seen that wave.
The Czech Telecommunication Office organized a roundtable for the European Commission and tech giants Google, Meta, Microsoft, X, and TikTok. It was apparently during that meeting that at least TikTok was convinced to remove the accounts disseminating pro-Russian narratives. It's likely that the Czech Republic will continue to preempt disinformation via its telecom office, university-level research institutes, and think tanks.
Our next guest is Kevin Casas-Zamora, Secretary General of the International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance. Kevin, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you're working with democracy, and being 2025, doesn't it feel like dancing in Titanic?
Indeed. I mean, these are complicated times for democracy. We just published our annual report, and what we see there is that the challenges to democracy are getting worse, that this is the longest sequence of adverse results for democracy over the past half a century. More and more countries are deteriorating in terms of their democratic performance compared to those that are advancing.
What we are doing wrong?
There are many things. I mean, this is death by 1,000 cuts, as it were. I mean, on the one hand, you have issues like disinformation that are wreaking havoc with the quality of democratic debates everywhere. But you also have more structural issues that often are overlooked in these discussions. It's very important to be very aware of external actors trying to subvert democratic processes. But internal decay in democracies, when it comes, for example, to rampant inequality levels, are also creating enormous problems for democracy that should not be overlooked whenever we discuss about the external threats.
So it's a great diagnosis, but somehow it still doesn't work. So what we can do?
I would say that it's a combination. I mean, again, there's no magic wand to solve the challenges that democracy is facing. I would say that it's a combination of playing defense in terms of protecting some of the critical elements, the foundation elements of democracy, for example, election integrity, without which nothing else matters. Protecting judicial independence and the workings of the rule of law, that's playing defense. But we also have to be proactive in terms of reforming the workings of democratic systems, because ultimately, most of the challenges that democracy is facing around the world are connected to the disaffection of people and the sense that democracy is not responding to social expectations in an agile way.
So how can we be more proactive? Because we're realizing that's the case, and we're talking about it for many, many years now. But why we're not doing it?
Because it's complicated. Because if you talk about structural issues like rampant levels of inequality, those are not easy to solve. But that's all the more reason to get serious about it. I mean,
it's a little too late, isn't it?
If you ask me about inequality, to just mention one crucial issue that is really affecting democracy, well, I would hope that at the same time that we think rightly about putting together coalitions to confront external aggression to democracy, we also put international coalitions together to tackle the issue of tax havens, for example, which is one of the drivers of obscene inequality levels that are really affecting democracy in a negative way. So international coalitions, but for all sorts of issues, not simply connected to external aggression.
And what about citizens? Because if we're talking about democracy, it started to be a buzzword, but really people are losing it with the disinformation, foreign influence, and how we can change the narrative.
That's a critical question. The sense that one of the critical parts of this struggle that we have in our hands is to get people to be willing to stand up for democratic values and to be active in this struggle that we have. And that's very difficult when you have a large number of people that are deeply, deeply disaffected and deeply skeptical about the democratic system. If you ask me, I think the single most important thing that we can do to protect democracy in Europe and elsewhere is to make sure that democracy works for people, that democratic institutions solve real problems for real people.
Sure, but people need to understand that it works for people. And in the previous talk, we were having an issue of passion, and it was passion for Europe, that we very much need this passion, and perhaps in some places it's already working, right? In Moldova, let's give an example.
Exactly. That's a very interesting example.
But that's outside of Europe. Do we still have passion for democracy within Europe?
Less and less so, and this is part of the fundamental problem. I mean, we really need people to see this as an existential issue, and they won't see it as an existential issue until and unless they feel that democracy is responding to them. Because ultimately, we may like or we may not like the populist projects and the populist leaders that are emerging around us, but they are a symptom of something.
Sure, but is it your personal failure or failure of the organization? What do we need to change that?
Again, I think we need to make sure that we form the coalitions that are able to reform democratic institutions in a way that make them more able to solve problems for people. Otherwise, if people feel that their interests are not being represented, they would go for populist leaders that promise easy solutions to complicated problems.
How much time do we need for it? Because we haven't been successful within that.
We need to start now because
I've heard that for so many years now.
Because the plight of democracy has never been as urgent as it is now. Before, we had some scope, some room to be complacent. We don't have such room anymore. I mean, the problems that democracy is facing are extraordinarily urgent in Europe and beyond.
Do you think there is a political will for that?
I certainly hope that we have the will. I mean, what I detect, I travel around the world as part of my job, and I detect, particularly over the past few months, may be connected to what is happening in the United States, but I detect a sense of urgency about the plight of democracy that you wouldn't see a year ago, or 2 years ago, or 5 years ago. I think something is changing. Whether this will be translated into specific decisions remains to be seen. One thing I will tell you that is absolutely vital is that the European Union does not lower the levels of support for democracy assistance. Europe has come to play an absolutely vital role supporting democratic reformers, supporting democratic activists all over the world, including in Europe. If the European Union drops the ball, then that would be enormously damaging to the democratic cause.
But we are seeing in Europe that the populism is growing.
Indeed, and that's a huge risk. I mean, I'm counting on the European Union continuing to function as it does today. I have no guarantees of that because the risks of more and more countries going in a way that is politically adverse to that is high and real.
Are we heading for the catastrophe?
I don't like to put it in those terms. I think we still have very much a chance. I mean, we just saw what happened in Moldova. I mean, when people realize that the stakes are incredibly high and people feel that the things that they really care about, democracy, human rights, the rule of law, are at stake, they tend to react. They tend to react and act in a way that is favorable to preserving democracy. So the example of Moldova suggests that when people realize the existential stakes of this struggle, they will do the right thing.
So it's not only a hope, but a real possibility to win.
Well, we just saw it. We just saw it in one country, and it's not the only country. I mean, we saw it in Poland a couple of years ago. Of course, it's a complicated discussion because sometimes it's a case of 2 steps forward and 1 step back. But people very often, when they realize the stakes, they act in the right way. But it's never. There's no such a thing as a final battle. Protecting democracy is a daily struggle. I mean, you're seeing this in Poland. That there's no such a thing as a final result that settles the issue once and for all.
And it's a struggle for all of us and for all the citizens. Thank you so much, Kevin,
pleasure.
for joining us. Thank you so much for joining us straight from Warsaw Security Forum. And until next time, keep calm and think deeply.